Hello guys, good afternoon. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Espero que estén súper bien. Este es un material de lectura. Va a ser que vamos a discutir es sobre American Modernism in Poetry. Ya vimos un poco acerca de la prosa, ya vimos un poco acerca del drama en las clases anteriores. Y hoy corresponde al género de la poesía. Vamos a tratar de ser puntuales. Me interesa mucho que discutamos este tema porque siento que ya tenemos un par de sesiones donde no podemos aclarar algunas dudas sobre a qué nos referimos con este periodo que es Modernism, porque de hecho no creo que hayamos podido tener una sesión así, face to face, ¿verdad? En vivo, por todo esto. Espero que les sirva mucho esta lección. He tratado de tener algunos elementos claves. Inicialmente tenía otra actividad para ello, pero decidí mejor grabárselos para que podamos discutir y yo pueda tal vez de alguna forma aclarar esos comentarios, ¿verdad? Esas dudas que están ahí también. American Modernism and Poetry. Voy a iniciar, darle paso a esto porque si no, nos vamos a tomar una vida. La pregunta siempre que nos debemos hacer es, how does literature reveal the values of a given time period? Ya lo veíamos en otros periodos con Romanticism, Transcendentalism, Puritanism y todo lo que hemos visto anteriormente, ¿verdad? Pero ahora es como, ¿qué nos revela la literatura en este periodo del modernismo? Específicamente, ¿qué nos revela la literatura? ¿Qué nos revelan las palabras escritas por estos poetas? Porque estamos viendo el género poesía durante este periodo. Entonces, vamos a tratar de descubrir eso, ¿verdad? How does, o cómo, o qué, how does literature reveal the values of a given time period? Si ustedes quieren tener también su input, voluntariamente lo pueden hacer en el grupo de WhatsApp que hemos creado. Si no te has incorporado, te invito a que lo hagas, ¿verdad? You're welcome to join to the group. If you don't know how to, please reach me via email and I can send you the link. If you don't have WhatsApp or something like that, and you want to collaborate and you want to have this discussion, so you can send me an email as well. That works for me. Okay, we're gonna start. Vamos a ver. Poetry terms that we need to know. And I'm gonna go a little bit faster with this one. And we have some literary devices in here. Basically, we're talking about repetition. It is what it is. It's repeating a sound, word, or phrase. That's a device over there. Then we have a rhythm, which is basically the alteration of stress and unstressed syllables to create a beat. And this is used not only in poetry, but also like in music, like in lyrics. At the end, some lyrics or even tweets or even Facebook posts, they can be poetic in a way. Sometimes when you have like the rhythm and then you follow a beat and then you make an argument, you say, I don't know if you have heard this, but some people say, hasta sonaste poético, en el sentido de que llevamos ese ritmo. Metaphor, direct comparison of two unlike things using a form of to be, right? Simile, it's the comparison of two unlike things using as, like, then. That's the difference between, because both of them are literary devices that are used for a metaphor. I'm talking about metaphor and simile. Both of them are used for comparisons. The only difference in English will be the use of the verb or the use of the word that it's linked, the two unlike things. For example, in the first one, it says that it's the verb to be. In the second one, simile, we use the word as, like, than. Pretty much, it's clear, right? So you already have this material if you want to go in depth and you want to like extend or a follow-up of the topic, you can do it perfectly. Symbol, imagery, mood, and then we have these three other elements. Basically, the symbol, it's a person, place, thing, or event that has meaning in itself and represents something else. imagery, language that appeals to our sense or sight, smell, taste, touch, or hearing. It's the feeling of the senses, right? Um, Mood is the overall emotion created by a work of literature. What's the mood? It's a sad mood? Is it a nostalgic mood? Is it a euphoric mood? So like the emotion that we evocate towards the writing. Um, so modernist poetry, we have two questions in here, and well, actually one question in the previous one that I already mentioned. But this one is, what does the word modern mean to you? What do you associate with it? Yeah, so it's two questions here. So I'm eager, guys, to see your answering. What's up? Like to have like this conversation. This is voluntary. It's not mandatory. We totally comprehend this period of emergency, but we wanted to have like the conversation going. What does the word modern mean to you? Just honest opinion in here. Just Mister, I think that this or this modern relates to, or it's similar to, or it's a synonym of. All right. So what do you associate with it when you think about like modern? What do you think? Um, so that'll be really nice to like to know about. You know, what is your imagery of modern? In this part, we have the literary timeline that I consider it's really relevant in the sense of, because we have to study different periods, and you might get lost in translation sometime, or you might get lost in the different periods. Just to sum up in here, we have the history. Remember that for me and for this class, I think it's very important to have into account both history and the literary aspect of the course. And the first one is the industrial revolution. Um, so basically, we have in this period something that is our romantics and Victorian era, and then we studied the transcendentalism, or what we got to know like as romanticism. And then we have the American Civil War. We studied the realism, naturalism, and existentialism. In the modern period, that is the 20th century, we have the modernism, World War of the First World War, the first one. Then we have the Great Depression, and then we have the Second World War. So yeah, pretty tricky word. It's been always complicated to say Guerra Mundial. But then we have the contemporary period. And this one is a postmodernism that we're gonna study later on. So we're gonna focus in this period. So hopefully it's interesting to you. There's some interesting facts here. How modernism arose, and this is a very nice, how are literary movements created? And this is something that we haven't discussed before, but I think we have seen some examples, and in the way that it works, that it's something is a reaction to a previous movement, and we already said that before, and hopefully that is clear to you and you keep that in mind. A new movement is often a reaction of a previous one. But in this case, we have the literary movement we call modernism, rejected romantic ideas. It grew out of the philosophical, scientific, political, and ideological shift that followed the Industrial Revolution. Through the shock of World War I and its aftermath. Some of the characteristics are modern writers break with the past. Like there's a breakup. Is that we want nothing to do with the past periods, right? And the way that some writers from the past were writing. Basically they reject literary traditions that seem outmoded. They also reject aesthetic, and this is for me, this is one of my favorite works in English, aesthetic values of their predecessors. And they reject diction that seems too gentle to suit in the era of technological breakthroughs and global violence. Break with romantic pieties and cliches, such as the notion of the sublime, and becomes subconsciously skeptical of the language, and he claims incoherence. And these are some of the characteristics we have in here. Some other characteristics of modern period. This is as a reaction of the previous mood that we had before, right? And we continue with this one that it's. Hold on, guys. Hold on. All right. Characteristics of modern poetry, in this case, it's stylistic experimentation and disrupted syntax. And we're gonna see some examples later on, so you get the idea of what is the teacher talking about. Stylistic experimentation and disrupted. You already know what syntax is, right? So we're gonna build from there. Um, Stream of consciousness, a term coined by American psychologist William James to describe the natural flow of a person's thoughts. I'm sorry for this. Theme of alienation, characters of the speaker feel disconnected from people and or society, from on the world, also disconnected from the world, and focus on images. And we're gonna see this. That's why the key term imagery and symbol, it's important. You're gonna see some examples in here. Syntax. Syntax is how we structure sentences and languages. Cabal, lo que ustedes estaban pensando, ¿verdad? For example, Cummings experimented heavily with syntax. And one example of this is his poem. And we have the example in here that it's anyone live in a pretty house town. It says, anyone live in a pretty house town with ups of floating mini bells down. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. He sang, he did, and he danced, he did. All right, or you can read it slower if you want. He sang, he did, and he danced. The important thing is to notice the syntax. Is it like, think about, is it something that I've seen before? Is it a structure that I've seen before? Would I say that is correct? Do I think that is the most appropriate way to write nowadays? And do I understand what is being said in here? And this is the kind of questions that you gotta follow up. But think about like spring, summer, autumn, winter, and the structure over there. Syntax is the way the sentences are placed in structure. He sang, he's didn't, he danced, he's dead, which is kind of weird, right? So, but the way, think about the way. The stream of consciousness, it's basically related to the a narrative mode that seeks to portray an individual's point of view by giving the written equivalent of the characters' thought processes. Either in a loose interior monologue, and this is important, either in a loose interior monologue or in connection to his or her actions. For example, T.S. Eliot's, I'm sorry, The Love Song of J. Alfred. It's one example, Alfred Prufrock. It's one example of the use of a stream of consciousness. And the example is here. And I'm also going to upload a video with the audio of the reading of the poem that is going to give you like the clearer idea of what I'm talking about. So a stream of consciousness, it's como el individuo, como la persona, da su punto de vista sobre un punto escrito a través de un monólogo interior o a través de la conexión con sus emociones. Vamos a continuar acá y vamos a ver un ejemplo. And indeed, there will be time to wonder, do I dare? And do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. Shall I palm my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a pinch? Shall I wear white flannel trousers and walk up at the beach? I have heard the mermaids singing each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. All right. So in this example, this is an abstract of an example of a stream of consciousness, and we were talking here is just like an interior monologue. It's like in a conversation to yourself. And when you ask to yourself, do I dare? Do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. And you see here the picture that he's painting and the imagery that he's using. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? These are like questions that you just ask to yourself. I shall wear a white flannel trouser and walk up on the beach. I heard the mermaids singing each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. And because usually the association of mermaids is like singing to like las sirenas usualmente encantan con su bello canto a los hombres, pero aquí básicamente estamos con I have heard the mermaids singing each to each, una a la otra, pero a mí no creo que ellas me canten a mí. So that's deep though, like, you know, if you think about it. So this is the first characteristic is syntax. The second one is stream of consciousness. And this one, imagism, it's basically a subset of modernist poetry. In traditional poetry, poets describe images in great detail and then link the images to a philosophical idea or theme. In images poetry, the writer does not talk about the themes behind the image. They let the image itself to be focus of the poem. Ezra Pound, one of the founders of imagism, set out 3 guidelines. The first one, in order to have imagism, it's direct treatment of the subject. The poem should deal directly with what's been talked about, without fancy words and phrases to talk about it. So that style is left behind. And the number 2 got the second guideline. It's use no word that does not contribute to the presentation. Use as few words as possible. And number 3, compose in the rhythm of the musical phrase, not in the rhythm of the metronome. In other words, create new rhythms. So those are the 3 characteristics that we have up there. We're going to talk about imagism later. So some of the modern poets in here is William Carlos Williams, Cummings, Marianne Moore, T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, Wallace Stevens. We're gonna see some examples in this presentation. Imagism, as I said, it was created by Ezra Pound. He wanted to find the exact word. No adornar los temas o el concepto o el sujeto del poema. Buscar la palabra concreta. Believe the imagery could send the poem's emotional message. Less emphasis on stanzas, patterns. Si se fijaron, los patrones como de ritmo y todo eso en los poemas anteriores no estaban tan compuestos como los que estábamos anteriormente estudiando. And basically, imagery is language that creates vivid sense impressions and suggests emotional states. Lets you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear what is happening in the poem. In the previous examples, hold on, let me, in the example of, hold on. I have heard the mermaid singing in this part. Shall I part my hair behind? And you have the imagery of someone, right? Do I dare to eat a fish? And you have the sense of taste there. You can almost taste, or you think your brain works and tries to recall what is the taste of a fish. I shall wear white flannel trouser and walk up at the beach, and you kind of like sense the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, and the sense of hearing over there. And one more time, I don't think that they will sing to me. And then your brain starts thinking about ¿Cuál es el sonido? ¿Cuál es la música? ¿Qué asocio con la música de el canto de una sirena? Entonces, ahí está trabajando con imagery. Es una de las características de imagism. Hopefully this is clear. So imagery is the language that creates vivid sense. Es eso que te hace sentir, o a veces cuando algo es parece tan real, una lectura parece tan real que sentís que la estás viviendo y sentís las emociones, sentís el dolor, sentís los pasos y a veces las mejores lecturas son las que te hacen vivir eso. ¿Por qué? Porque hace un buen uso de imagery. O a veces un poema se disfruta más personalmente, ¿verdad? Cuando me siento involucrado, cuando me siento que el autor tuvo la delicadeza de hacerme vivir un poema y estimular de alguna forma mi mente. So we have this next author that it was a doctor and a poet and who was influenced by Ezra Pound's idea of imagism. He disliked poems that contain many historical, religious, and literary allusions. Wrote about common subjects in a spared style. One example is the red wheelbarrow, the gray figure. And this is just to say, I'm gonna link in here. So if you wanna like go further in reading, that's fine. T.S. Eliot. So another characteristics you can see by the author, the characteristic of the movement. So dislike poems that contain many historical, religious, and literary allusions. Wrote about common subjects in spare style. T.S. Eliot later became a British citizen, but so he is an American. He was an American in Great Britain, both claim him. Was the editor of the Criterion, a literary magazine in England, and was interested in classical poetry. Wrote The Wasteland, a long poem in 1922 about the spiritually empty society. Greatly influenced by the destruction of World War I and the collapse of traditional values following the war. So we were discussing, this is the one that I mentioned before, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. This poem is written as a dramatic monologue, a poem in which a character speaks directly to the readers. There are many allusions in this poem that we, the readers, must understand before we can fully understand the poem itself. What are the overall themes from the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock? And we're gonna see some examples. I'm going to give you some examples here of the themes. So basically the topics are meaningless of daily life. La insignificancia del día corriente, del día a día. The second one is smart people feel ostracized, city side of modern society, satirizing self-consciousness, misunderstanding between people, broken, divided personalities, the past is in the present, empty spiritual state. Okay. Entonces, esos son algunos de los temas que podemos evaluar en este poema, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Le voy a dejar el link por ahí para que podamos analizarlo, ¿verdad? También porque tengamos esa experiencia. Esa es la palabra que estaba buscando, la palabra concreta, experiencia. All right, so en este texto lo que hice es los temas meaningless of daily life y ustedes lo van a poder encontrar también y como una explicación, ¿verdad? Para que ustedes básicamente asocien los themes con los temas y en el poema. Eliot believes that much of the human activities are habitual, futile, and a waste of time because of the repetitiveness of the daily grain of life. Eliot assumed people found it meaningless. He felt that humans therefore found life unfulfilling. Even if his religious poetry, Eliot depicted people's sense of defeat, even the necessity for human life to be a failure. And then we're gonna follow like the second topic, which is this one. Smart people feel ostracized. Explanation. So Elliot suggests that a thinking individual inevitably feels weary, alienated, dislocated, or even worthless. And then we have the example. And then another theme, it's city side of modern society, which basically is Elliot portrays the city side of modern society, especially on urban society life or urban society. Urban has lost its traditional moral values and restraints. Life has become tainted. And then you can explore in the different elements in here of the theme in this poem by T.S. Eliot. I'm going to leave you 8 themes so you can explore them all. Hopefully you have a nice reading and hopefully you get the sense of what we're talking about in here. All right, so I'm going to link this if you want to know about poetry in America during the period of modernism. There is a free course if you want to enroll by Harvard University. There's the link if you want to know a little bit more. Es un poquito extenso, pero si tú tienes tiempo y quieres aprender y te apasiona la poesía y quieres aprender de los grandes poetas o influenciarte de la poesía de modernista en América, pues es un muy buen ejemplo. O si te sentís más identificado con este tipo de poesía que con los tipos de poesía que hemos estudiado anteriormente, pues puedes también ver por aquí, ¿verdad? Entonces, esto es voluntario. Si tú lo quieres hacer, perfecto. Si a ti te interesa la poesía, realmente te interesa la poesía, pues culturicémonos, eduquémonos, informémonos, exploremos ejemplos de otras personas y pues así podemos quizás mejorar nuestro estilo. All right. Eso es lo que quería discutir con ustedes, chicos. Espero que nos quede un poquito más claro algunas de las características de la poesía del periodo moderno. Si consideras que fui un poquito rápido, pues lo que puedes hacer es detenidamente lo puedes explorar, lo puedes ver cuáles son las características. Si hay una palabra que no te quedó clara o no conoces el significado, pues búscala y ya, búscala y sabemos qué es lo que significa. Entonces, eso es parte de tu esfuerzo como estudiante. No sé, él dijo una palabra ahí o había una cosa que era bien complicado, pero nunca supe qué significaba. Pues es una buena oportunidad para que tomes, what does alineation mean? Alineation in Spanish. What does stream mean? All right? Y así vamos viendo un poquito más de los ejemplos. Si quieres explorar un poco más sobre estos escritores o ver algunos de sus trabajos, pues perfectamente lo puedes hacer. Los dejo, chicos. Cuídense y tengan una feliz tarde. Nos vemos hasta, no sé, pronto.